Brian emailed me about our discussion back in mid March about the possible continued convergence of Apple's notebooks and iPads. You may have noticed that iPad OS and Mac OS seem to be getting closer and closer together, and there's been some discussion in the community about, when is Apple just going to finally admit it and say that notebooks and iPads are the same device. I don't know if it'll ever happen. I don't think it'll ever happen. Apple says it won't, but again, we've heard this story before. Remember when Steve Jobs famously said there would never be video on an iPod, and sure enough, a few years later there was, or it may have even been months later. I don't quite remember. But our conversation back in mid-March got Brian thinking that an iPad with a Magic Keyboard upgrade for his current iPad might also be a viable replacement for his aging 2014 MacBook Pro. And I think, depending upon your use cases, yeah, that probably could happen. But that did get Brian thinking about the question of backup, and specifically local backup. If you have an iPad as your only device, he asks, is there any kind of local solution for backup? Can I back up without having the cloud, or specifically iCloud? And unfortunately, the answer currently, as far as I know, unless there's some obscure product I haven't been able to find, and the community will find it for me if I haven't found it, but unfortunately, I would say largely the answer is no. Now, the good news, in my opinion, is that iCloud backup for iOS devices is really pretty good. It has worked very reliably for me, and I have had no issues using it. But you also know that I'm a huge fanatic when it comes to backup, and I feel like having a backup only in one place is not really necessarily a backup. We are putting a lot of trust in Apple at that point. That's why I like to also occasionally back up my iOS devices to my Mac, which you can do, but again, that relies on actually having another Apple device. So, what happens if maybe you don't have consistent, reliable internet? You can't rely on the cloud, or maybe you just don't trust Apple with all your precious data. What is the solution? And really, at this point, you would still need a Mac to connect to, either wired or wirelessly, to back up that iPad locally. Now, luckily, you can use an older or aging Mac for this. You don't need the latest and greatest Mac, but, slowly over time, Macs age out, and, that can change at any moment. So I thought Brian's question was a really great one to bring up here on the MacCast and kind of throw out to the community. I will comment that there is kind of another option for backing up directly from an iPad, but it really would be having to do a lot of things manually, at least for files and data. I guess you could also use cloud services, but again, we're talking about backing up locally without using the cloud. And that is, iPads now support connecting USB thumb drives directly to your iPad. So you can go into the Files app and you can transfer files out. There's also the SanDisk iXpand line of products that actually have USB sticks that have Lightning connectors or USB-C options, and they have an app that will allow you to automatically back up your entire photo library and your contacts, but that's not going to back up your operating system. It's not a full restore kind of option. So, it does feel like there's a little bit of a missing piece in Apple's overall strategy to kind of sell iPad as a replacement for your computer, at least when it comes to backup. And Brian mentioned in his email something that I had been thinking about as well. He said it'd be great if Apple made a local backup appliance for iOS devices, and I 100% agree with that. Think of something like Apple's discontinued Time Capsule for the Mac that would allow you to do Time Machine on your Mac, but built specifically for your iOS devices. So you could attach it to your network, it could wirelessly back up locally your iOS devices, and probably even do versioning and all that other fun stuff. And that would be a really cool product to see Apple bring out. And as a matter of fact, it'd be great if it worked for your Macs as well. I mean, I guess we're talking about really the return of Time Machine, or the Time Capsule rather, and adding in support for both Macs and iOS devices. And I think that could be hugely popular, especially if it had some USB-C ports on it. You could attach external storage to kind of expand it. Don't know if I'm pretty sure that's not even a product that Apple is thinking about, but I know a lot of people would love to see Apple get back into that. And I've always talked about, wanting Apple to have some sort of streaming media server as well. And I guess it could serve that purpose also. So, yeah, some good thoughts and ideas there.